Three, two, one.
This is episode 32 of DJ Talks. My name is Johnny.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan.
Man, 32 weeks. That's 32 weeks. That's almost we're approaching 7 months.
Hell yeah,
Pretty
we
good.
are. Let's go.
That's pretty good. Oh no, wait, that's 8 months. Wait, 32 for
One
yeah, 8
big thing that
months.
you
Yeah.
something like
Holy
that.
shit.
I
It's
don't
been a
even know.
while. Jeez. That's pretty good though. That's pretty good. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
This is the first episode of month 8, I think. So,
hmm
that's pretty cool.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's how it's gotta be. How it's gotta be.
Yeah.
You guys all love us. We love us. Everything's gonna be all about love.
Yeah. So last week we did an episode on the fighting game community, and
hmm
we got quite a few comments and PMs, which is pretty cool.
hmm
First one, as always, is from Kevin. He loves DJ Talk, so that's really cool. He messaged me on League and gave us a lot of feedback, and just told us that it's kind of stuff that you and I talked about, Dan, about like the balance of like who's speaking and ideas and things like that. But in general, he felt like what we were doing was really cool. So I'm really glad that Kevin's still loving it.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, he messaged me too, and he was talking about some Hearthstone event. Hopefully that went well for you, Kevin. Hopefully that went well for you. So there was some like fireside thing in Chicago. Um, but yeah, I remember. Once again, hopefully that went well for you. So
That's pretty dope.
yeah.
And then we got a message from Julia. She said that based on the podcast, that she thought that I would really like the game Journey. So I looked it up, and I think the game actually looks really good.
Mhm.
Graphically, it looks like the kind of game that I'd like playing. But I've never played it myself. I don't really know what it's about. So
Is it a fighting game
um,
too?
I don't really know. I just
Okay.
looked up the like. I just looked up what it was and what it looked like, and it got good reviews. I'm like, huh,
Hmm.
maybe I'll give it a shot. Who knows?
All right.
It seems like a fun game though. Julie, you said that I can go to your place and play, so I might take you up on that. It seems like a lot of fun. Um, got a message from my friend and teammate Adam. So yeah, initially when I talked to you about learning more about the fighting game community, it was more just because I was getting into a Pokken tournament, but um, then you and I ended up just doing an
Yep.
episode on it because it was something that like we found a lot of interest in. So I know Adam has a long history of knowledge in esports in general. So he has a pretty good idea of like some of the things that we were talking about already. And
hmm
like he commented, there's so much more to talk about, which we didn't get to touch on. A lot of what we talked about was just like very surface level stuff.
Of course.
Just like for context, there's a 4 hour Super Smash Bros. Melee documentary on YouTube. And that just highlights maybe just a couple years of Smash, and it isn't even updated to like recent years. And
hmm
there's a lot that's happened in recent years too. So, like that's just one game, and there's so much more to go into like in every other game and the history of
Yep.
players and the scenes and stuff. So, you're 100% right, Adam. There's a lot more
hmm
to that we could have gone over.
And I mean, we even at the end, at least for me, I felt like we had so much more, but we had, we want to make sure that these are pretty somewhat concise at least. We don't want you sitting here for 3 hours listening to us ramble about, you know, something. But yeah, maybe we'll do it in a different episode as well. Maybe we get more specific into, let's say, Smash or Pokken, something
Mhm.
you've been really into. So
Yeah, I mean, like the length of the episodes is like one thing, but then like just being able to like talk about things in an educated manner is another. And I feel like there's a lot of research that needs to be done for you and I to be prepared to do that.
mhm.
So that would be a totally different beast to tame.
Oh, of course.
Um, and our last one is from our friend Eric. He's a pretty good Smash player in like the Chicagoland area. Also good friend of ours. So I'm really glad that actually watched the episode, Eric. I hope that kind of highlighted some of the things that you feel, because I feel like when I think about like FGC players
Mhm.
and like who gets really enthusiastic and really excited about stuff, I often think of you and like your enthusiasm, Eric. So I'm hoping that like you would like kind of shine a light on a different side of you that like maybe not all the world sees, right?
Team Saki boys.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. And yeah, sorry about the mic last week. It was, I don't know if it was my driver or something, but thank you for the feedback, everybody. We fixed it, I hope.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hope.
There you go. One off
Yeah.
week. But yeah, everything. Thank you for the comments, everybody. We really appreciate it. And keep keep them coming. Just keep them coming.
Yeah. But next we wanted to spend a little bit of time just like talking about ourselves, because I know that that's something that like a lot of our viewers are our friends. So we thought it'd be cool if you took a few minutes to like highlight some of the things that we've been up to.
Mhm.
Dan, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So something I've done in the past once, but recently I've been getting into a little bit of D&D.
Holy
Dungeons
no
and
fucking
Dragons. Yes, there we
what?
go. So I don't know if any of you out there have tried, but Dungeons and Dragons is basically like a role playing in real life, but you're telling. So you're either a character, you're playing a character, or you're the dungeon master or game master, and you're creating a story based on just talking to each other, right? So obviously, the dungeon master has to prepare some type of basic or not basic, maybe
Like a narrative.
elaborate narrative. Yeah. And you have characters who are playing and you make decisions. It's like exactly like an RPG, and you level up and you get more skills and all of this cool stuff. So um, I tried for the very first time. We just grabbed a couple friends, tested it out, got a story online, and it was fun. Definitely worth checking out, and I'm still now continuously watching videos and just to at least learn more on how to actually create this and do it better, because our first time was definitely not good.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like setting up D&D and actually being able to run it takes a lot of time from the dungeon master, but
Mhm.
I've only heard good things about it, even from like gamers and non-gamers alike. Like when you have your casual friends that like aren't big on games, like playing a D&D's thing with you, like I heard that they generally have a pretty good time. So
It's worth checking out at least. It's a it's actually a lot of a time investment actually. So you each session would probably range from anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. So definitely it's you have to plan it. But yeah, I mean it was fun. It was fun.
hmm
I mean, and you
yeah.
get to chill with your friends, hang out, chat, have fun, troll around. So
I mean, it was a pretty big thing at PAX South. I know a lot of people like ran their own D&D sessions while they were there. And then there's a lot of figures and like
mhm.
special dice that people were
Ooh,
selling that
yeah.
were specific to D&D, which was really cool. Like I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of dice myself, and I don't even play D&D, but like it's something I've always kind of appreciated. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and maybe I'll get into it at some point. But you know, when I have a little more time on my hands, not focused on like career related stuff.
Definitely, definitely. What about you? How's that poking going?
I actually haven't played in a while. I've been spending a lot more time reading,
Okay.
so I'm at a pretty good pace right now where I finish like one book a month. In January, I finished a book called "Hard Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World"
Yeah.
by Murakami, which was pretty cool. I got it as a Secret Santa Christmas gift, and it's set up like Kafka on the Shore. If any of you ever read it, where every even chapter tells one story, and every odd chapter tells another story. And without getting into too much detail, because I truly believe that it's like an incredible book worth reading, um, they kind of highlight very similar themes, and there are a lot of parallels between the two. But the connection between the two isn't like totally clear.
Mhm.
So it was like this fiction sci-fi sort of a book that was really cool. I think it was like cyberpunk was one of the categories, which I'd never heard of before. That sounds like a music genre, but
Dude, it sounds like a new made up like boom
yeah, I'm like,
pop
this
out
is
some
so, it's kind
genres
of
here.
weird. It was a weird name,
Mhm.
but and then in February, I'm finishing up a book of short stories called Men Without Women, and it
Okay.
talks about these different stories of how like men like either lost some significant woman in their lives or found somebody or like how they deal with it. There's a lot of really weird, touching stories that I'm really enjoying. But the next book I'm planning on reading is called The 4 Hour Work Week by Charles Duhigg, which is actually, or is it Thomas? No, Charles Duhigg is The Power of Habit. Timothy Ferris, I think, is yeah, it should be Tim Ferris. Yes, Tim Ferriss. Um, it's on my bed, so. But this book is about like productivity and like managing your time better, especially
Mhm.
with work related stuff. And being someone that works remotely from home for a game company, I figure that it might be good for me to like learn how to find more efficient ways to manage my time. Even though like I feel like I have a pretty good system right now between like working my day job at Starbucks and then going to test bus. So it's definitely exhausting, but I think that the book can like teach me a lot about how I could be more productive and like maybe figure out ways to spend more time cleaning my
Mhm.
room, or like maybe I'll like make time to like play video games and read and finish my work. So that'd be ideal.
Yeah.
Um,
Quick thing on that. There is actually a book
yeah.
called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh
it.
my
You've
God,
probably
yeah.
read it, right? Or heard of it, at least.
So I had to read it in college, and I thought it was. I actually didn't read it as like closely as I should have,
Hmm.
but I remember reading through some of it and thinking it was kind of dumb. I do remember also not reading through all of it, so like maybe I'll give
Hmm.
it another shot. But like I've heard that most people that have read the book really like it.
Hmm.
There's like a very small minority of people that don't like it.
Hmm. Maybe it's always something people already told you, or you've heard so much, and you're tired of hearing the exact same things, maybe over and over. Or maybe who knows? Some people just don't
Maybe.
really take to a book, or they have a different style of what they like to listen to or read. So, yeah, I mean that's great. Yeah. One quick thing, Winfield, shout out to you. You also told me to read these Murakami books. I have not yet read
Dude,
one.
they're really good. They're really fucking good.
There you go. Maybe
I'm
this will
telling you.
actually incentivize me to read since for like a year now, maybe two
What's
years
cool
of
is
that.
that because Murakami is Japanese,
Hmm.
a lot of the books take place assuming that you're familiar with Japanese geography.
Yeah.
I know that Hard Boiled Wonderland, the book that I just read in January, takes place in Tokyo. At least one of the stories does.
Hmm.
So like having been there before, it's cool because you can kind of like imagine like what things would look like and where things are and stuff. Um, he also uses a lot of Japanese names and like references a lot of Japanese things. So like, in my perspective, because I'm like,
Hmm.
because I've kind of equated myself a little bit with Japanese culture. Excuse me. It's kind of cool imagining the characters behave more
Mm.
Japanese than American. Um, so I'd love to hear, Dan, from your perspective, reading the books from someone that isn't as familiar with Japanese culture and maybe thinking about like seeing the story from a different light, right? I think that'd be really cool.
Definitely. All right. Two people now. Told me. All right. I'll check it out. But yeah, that I mean, kind of. That's great that you're actually getting to read. I haven't read, like I said, like a year or two. So, um, I may have listened to audiobooks at one point, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Actually, getting to actually read definitely something I should jump back into.
Yeah, for sure.
But awesome.
I should have said this at the beginning of the episode, but we are kind of talking about different topics today. We're not going to like be super explicit about like switching topics, but the timestamps will be in the description of the video. So if you're more interested in one topic over the other,
Hmm.
you're more than welcome to just jump ahead. We won't be offended or anything. But next we're going to talk a little about some of the news in the gaming world that are more relevant to Dan and I. So
Woo!
did you watch LCS this weekend? Dan and I are really big fans of LCS for those of you guys that don't know. So we like to kind of it's something that we enjoy like watching and talking about.
Definitely. You know what? I actually didn't get too much chance. I watched all the highlights of every single
Mhm.
one. I watched the pregame because I think Dash, Mark Z, and Jet are doing a
Chat.
great
Yeah.
job, and they're actually making it super interesting. They're bringing out a lot of like different elements and different segments, and actually, I really enjoy the analysis that they provide because
Mhm.
it helps me understand a little bit more, at least based on their opinion. Um, I don't have as much of a chance to watch every single game. So being able to actually listen to what their thoughts are and how everything is going, and um, I think yeah, I'm loving it. So good job on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, interesting stuff this week, and just overall NALCS. It's such a mishmash of kind of blah and just you have no clue what is even going to go on, what's going to happen this week, that week. Someone 0-2s, this one 2-0s.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
So I didn't watch all the games either, but I was following most of them. TSM beat Echo Fox, which is pretty big.
Mhm.
Echo Fox is still the number one team in LCS right now, but in TSM was like a middle of the pack team for some reason because they just had like a lot of internal problems. But they actually beat Echo Fox, which was pretty cool to see. Just not being a TSM fan myself, I just like seeing upsets like that.
Mhm.
And TSM might not actually suck anymore, which is pretty cool. CLG still sucks. They lost to Golden Guardians, which is kind of surprising considering the fact that CLG hasn't done this poorly in a very long time at the beginning of a season. So that's pretty unfortunate for them. I think
2015, I think they
something
were in
like that.
relegations, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember what it was,
Mhm.
but it was a while. And I think Cloud9 also lost this weekend. I remember my friend Kess made a bunch of predictions for this weekend,
Hmm.
thinking like CLG would beat Golden Guardians, Echo Fox would beat TSM, Cloud9 would beat whoever they were playing. It might have been Clutch Gaming. I think they lost to. Um, and he got them all wrong. And he was talking about how he was like willing to put out bets, mystery skin bets, which is something my friends like to do. And I'm like, shit, man, should have taken him up on some of these bets because I would have had some free mystery skins, you know?
100 Thieves was the team they lost to.
100 Thieves, yeah. Oh, right, that's why Meteos and Cloud and Sneaky did that stream, and they were joking about how, you know, Meteos was joking about how he had a good day because he won his LCS game, and Sneaky was like, "Oh yeah, it's all right." So,
Oh man, Afromu had his insane Thresh game. That's
oh
what it
yeah,
was.
where he landed like everything, right?
It was stupid, man. It was
Yeah.
just like, what the heck is your hook made of?
Mhm. Yeah, I
um,
actually didn't get to watch the game, but I heard like he just landed everything, and then Cody some went like 11:04 or some shit.
mhm.
Yeah,
Carried.
that's crazy. You don't see those kinds of score lines in LCS.
One other thing for you, for liking TSM upsets, or not TSM upsets, just upsets in general. TSM actually got based on a Reddit post. Weldon is working with Mike Young
Oh, wow.
on kind of his mentality and or just kind of being able to handle the pressure and the pressure of being on TSM as a jungler, not no less. You know, all the junglers in the past have had so much pressure. Even Svenskeren saying that as well.
Yeah.
So having that burden on his shoulders, definitely good to have Weldon be right there. So.
And previously, just the fact that CSM was such a mid-centric team in terms of the media, not necessarily the way they play,
Mhm.
but Bjergsen being the most popular player on the team, you get a lot of attention when like the guy that's supposed to be helping him out sucks or like looks really bad. I
Mhm.
mean, like Sven Skaren got a lot of flack for his performance at Worlds, but like every major team owner and coach in LCS knew that he was a good player, which is why Cloud9 picked him up immediately, right? Just because he had a bad performance at Worlds doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad player. And I don't think that Mike Young is bad either, but he just looks really bad and is
Mhm.
going to get a lot of like backlash in the community. So I'm really glad that he has like mental support, a mental support system to
Mhm.
build a little bit of fortitude, you know, when he plays on stage.
Definitely. And we have to talk about my boy Double Lift and his team, Team Liquid.
Oh,
Just
they
like,
look like shit. I don't know what happened.
oh my gosh, it's so
Holy
upsetting, so
crap.
sad. What are they? They're fourth. Team Liquid. No, they're fifth. Oh, fourth.
They're fifth. They're fifth.
They're like
I don't
third,
actually
tied
know
with
this
three
game.
different people. Sorry, I have it
Yeah.
pulled up here. They're tied third with three different people, but I think they're technically fourth based on tiebreakers and everything. So,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, I'm so sad. They looked so good in the beginning, then they look so bad, and then they look so good, and then they just look like they don't know what they're doing anymore. And I watched one of their games, and I believe it was against CLG, where they literally didn't do anything all game. So you felt so they got a lot of objectives, but then you didn't feel like they were making any plays or
Right.
progressing the game. So it just felt stale. I don't know if it's something on their team, but I've been watching a lot of those like behind the scenes, and I don't know. They didn't. It doesn't sound like they're actually improving. So who knows? I hope they pick it up. I'm still rooting for Double Lift, and obviously Team Liquid now because I have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, great season because it's actually shaking things up a little.
Yeah,
TSM's.
so far it's pretty good. We're at that awkward halfway point where
Mhm.
like you really don't know what's gonna happen, but like there's no way that like for example Echo Fox I feel like isn't a top 3 team. If they don't make it top 3, I mean, a lot of people think that they're probably going to be the number 1 team going to playoffs, but like if they're not top 3, like that org has major problems, right? Um, I'm excited to see what teams do make it to playoffs on the bottom end.
Ooh,
Um,
that's yeah. It's
but
a
who knows what'll happen, right? It's like you said, Dan. It's been like a
mhm.
real mishmash of teams kind of like taking random wins off
Yep.
each other, so we don't actually know what's gonna happen.
And bottom of the pack, CLG and Golden Guardians, and people are actually saying CLG is the worst because of how they performed in the last 2 weeks. What they're 0-5, I think,
Yeah,
in the
which
last
sucks. I
three
actually
weeks.
think
So,
that their roster's pretty good, but like they seem to have like a lot of problems with the way they play with each other, and that's like
mhm.
gonna hold them back.
Who knows? I'm excited. Seeing a change in this standings rather than knowing that TSM is going to be first is
Hmm.
just it's just such a breath of fresh air, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
You're getting the new teams, you know. You got to get them pumped up, hyped up. Echo Fox is hyped up. I'm telling you, Rick Fox in the stands, passing out gear. Oh man, it's great from what I've seen of all the videos. So
Yeah, man, we should go to LCS at some point. I really want to. I really want to go, man.
summer,
At some point.
summer season. I bet we can pop over there once.
No, yeah, I'm definitely thinking of I'm definitely thinking of going into summer, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, that wraps us up for the LCS at least. Johnny, you're excited about something coming out on the Switch here.
Oh yeah, so I am really big on Switch big releases. As something that they recently dropped.
Mhm.
Uh, by the time this episode goes up, it'll be February 26th. So 10 days ago, um, Bayonetta 1 and 2 dropped on the Switch. I had never played the games before. The only thing I knew about Bayonetta was that she had the most risque pose of any amiibo that I've ever seen, and that she's like super OP in Smash 4 or something. She
Yes.
also like I heard that she has this really weird kind of like sexy bodysuit that like becomes her weapon, and like she fights with it, and she's like kind of like this devilish, really cool like I don't want to even know if she's a heroine or not, but like a character, right?
Hmm.
So like, all right, why not? And I had a coupon for the game. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up. So like 2 games in one. You got Bayonetta 1 as a download code and Bayonetta 2 in a cartridge. So I picked it up. I haven't actually played it yet, but that's something I'm really excited for.
Hmm.
Dan, I know you have a Switch, but I'm assuming you didn't pick up the game, right?
Um, no, actually, I actually don't know too much about Bayonetta. Um, I've only seen it when I was researching the FGC stuff,
Hmm.
and I actually saw Smash 4 being played, and I saw this random character that I've never seen before, and I just, well, now I know it's Bayonetta. So, she looks cool. She looks badass. Um, and what is this? She looks like, yeah, her suit. She has this gun, kind of like Devil May Cry, but the female version of it almost. It looks like.
Hmm.
I don't know, but what have you heard about it? Good things, at least, since you bought it.
So it had like pretty good reviews when I looked up online. It was like in the 80s for Metacritic, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Mhm.
And then I saw a big reason why I actually bought it, and I hate to say this because like the shit works, was the fucking trailer. I'm looking at the trailer and I'm like, wait a minute, this game actually looks really good. So the way the game plays out, just based on the trailer, reminded me
Mhm.
a lot of Near Automata. And if you guys have like been watching our podcast for a while, then
Mhm.
you'll know that I'm like a really big fan of that game. I don't know if it's actually like super similar to that like weird shifting
Mhm.
perspective, really cool deep story kind of like amazing soundtrack sort of game, but I had a couple of friends recommend it to me. It came out on the Switch. I'm a really big supporter of Switch games. I will continue to buy them because I want to support developers and I love the platform. So those are just the things I was thinking of. Like, you know what? I will put my money down for it. I think it's worth it. So I actually think I should really play it soon. I might like try to find some time to play it this week and like
Mhm.
at least have something to talk about for next week's episode, where I can like discuss like, oh, I really like Bayonetta. These are things that I really like about it. These are things I don't like about whatever.
Yeah.
Um, at least talk about it even if I hate it. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I actually don't know anything about the game other than the fact that like I'm pretty excited to play it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I might check it out. Maybe take a look at the trailer as well. the thing that
Mhm.
convinced you to actually buy it. That means they're doing a
Yeah.
good job in making their trailers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, it really did sell me. It
Hmm.
was just weird because I was like, I'm usually not a big fan of those kinds of things where it's like, oh, I'll watch a trailer and it's like all fluff. But no, it actually included gameplay and it was actually like interesting. It actually told me a little bit about the story, even though I don't remember any of it. I was just sold because I was like,
Yeah,
I'll take the money. So
definitely.
yeah,
That's that's when you know advertisements,
yeah.
marketing, they get you.
In addition to that, I do want to say that there has been a countdown on the Pokemon Twitter
Hmm.
that tells us that there's going to be an announcement on February 27th. Now, traditionally, end of February is going to be like some. Yeah, no, I'm excited, dude. Um, Traditionally, at the end of February, there's a big Pokemon announcement. I know that 2 years ago is the announcement of Sun and Moon, which was like really fucking hype.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what last year's announcement was, but this year is expected to be pretty good because they're really hyping up the idea of Pokemon Day, which has been trending online. Not really, but like Pokemon's kind of pushing this idea, like, oh, there's gonna be really cute like Pokemon Snapchat filters, and then there's gonna be like in-game events in Pokemon Go, and then um, there's other stuff going on that I don't really remember, but I know they're like really trying to get people excited for it. A lot of people are excited for this because they anticipate that this is going to be the announcement of a Pokemon RPG on the Switch, which Dan, you and I have like been really vocal about because we really want to see something good. I know that I read in a press release somewhere that people are telling us not, or the developers are telling us not to get too excited or get our hopes too high. I
Yeah.
think that's just because like if they want to do like a full fledged, like a Pokemon, like the original, like the go around catch Pokemon battle sort of experience on the Switch, that might take a little longer.
Hmm.
Just especially because they usually release those games at the end of the year, closer to like November. And what's next in line is a remake of Diamond and Pearl. Just like following the schedule and the pattern that they've been going with.
And you're really
So
excited about that.
that's what I'm even more excited for. But if this is gonna be some like sort of spin-off, kind of
Hmm.
like Pokemon RPG sort of thing, that'd be really cool. Personally, like something along the lines of Pokemon Coliseum would
Hmm.
also be really cool. What would you want to see?
Dude, there was I think there was a Facebook post or a Reddit post that had a fan made RPG Pokemon game.
Uh,
And it was literally just like the Pokemon game, but it was 3D model and you were walking around with your Pokemon. I didn't really see too much of the actual trailer that they had, and I don't know if it was real or fake, and we talked about this in a past episode as well, but
yeah, I remember you talking. Yeah,
that's what I picture it looking like. And I can't explain it. I just hope they do a good job because this has been what a lot of people have wanted for so long, and now they have the ability to create it on this platform, the Switch, and it's actually amazing. Like this
yeah,
handheld slash console put together Pokemon game, that's insane. I'm
yeah.
just, I just hope it doesn't disappoint. That's all.
And then like imagine just the multiplayer functionality and like me like eventually when I get to visit you at your place, like me dragging my ass to my Switch and my game to your place and just like us sitting down and like just being degenerates and like Pokemon, like I don't know, that really excites me. So I'm with you, man. I hope that is something good. I really hope it's like a 3D sort of RPG.
What if it's
That'd
an
be really exciting.
MMO style? Like you can,
Oh my god, that'd
or
be
maybe not
amazing.
MMO, but like a co-op type thing almost. Like you walk around and you actually see the other character next to you, and you can walk and dual battle together. And
Oh my god.
how
That
sick would
sounds
that
so
be?
hype.
What the? Oh my! All right.
I don't know if we would see that for another like year or two, but like that would be really cool and I'd probably still buy it.
Yeah, if you can, like, being able to play with your friends is such a big thing. That's why
Mhm.
Smash is so big. That's why a lot of those things that are online games are so big. Imagine if Nintendo created something like
Yeah.
that to in the Pokemon world. So,
I feel like that would be and you and I talked about this before, Dan, where like a lot of people are on the fence about buying a Switch and they're just like not super convinced because like the number of games that are out. And
Mhm.
I mean like as someone who's like frequently looking for new games and like browsing the eShop a lot, there are a lot of games actually out for the Switch, but like we don't see the big AAA titles
Yep.
that you would expect from a Nintendo franchise, right? You already have Zelda. You already have Mario Kart. You have Fire Emblem, sort of. Um, you have Mario, like the 3D
Mhm.
Mario game. We haven't seen
Kirby
an Animal Crossing title. Oh yeah, Kirby was out. That's a
coming
good
out
one.
soon. Yeah.
We haven't seen a Metroid title. We haven't seen a Pikmin title. You know, those really big titles are like, all right, fine, I'll buy it.
Mhm.
And I think that those like franchises that we were talking about are gonna push people over the edge, especially Pokemon. Like I think Pokemon is just shown to like withstand the test of time,
Yep.
and if they do something like imagine like a 3D version of Pokemon Blue, or
Mhm.
even if they just like port over like a cleaned up version,
Mhm.
maybe like Fire Red or Leaf Green or something, right? That'd be really exciting.
Yeah.
I would probably wet my panties if they did a GameCube Virtual Console announcement, um, which included like a Pokemon sort of thing, but I have no idea what the Pokemon announcement will be, so I'm excited. It's actually gonna be tomorrow, dude.
Yeah.
By the time most of you guys are watching this, the announcement will probably be made. So we'll probably talk about that in
Mhm.
next week's episode.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, last topic here, in the gaming world news, at least.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't as important. It's just because I've been playing a lot of Civ with my friends, but I know that the Civ 6 DLC came out. And it's kind of weird because like a lot of my friends, and a lot of my peers actually bought Civ 6 when the Humble Bundle dropped,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like the $12
Yep.
for the Humble Monthly where you got Civ 6. And then they just released the DLC, which is like pretty good timing, right? But the DLC is $30, and I think a lot of people are still like trying to get the hang of the game, or like can't justify paying such a steep price for some DLC. Um, so I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on like maybe if that timing was planned with the Humble
Mm-hmm.
Bundle, or like do you think that the DLC is like gonna be worth it? Because the thing about the DLC, Dan, is
Mm-hmm.
that you can't actually play with your friends unless they all have the DLC. Unlike other games where I know that like
Mm-hmm.
maybe if one of you guys had the DLC, then everyone could play.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You know what? It could very much well have been planned. I've played Civ 6 a lot as well, and I think the game is so expansive. There's
Yeah.
so much to do. However, there's certain mechanics and certain things that I don't like about the mechanics. I can't explain it exactly because I don't remember. It's been a couple weeks since I've actually played it again, but there's small little tweaks that they needed to make it more fluid and more just smoother for the gamer and the gameplay experience. But
Hmm.
there's so much you can do, and there's so much that you need to know in order
Yeah.
to actually fully feel like you mastered the game. And I don't think anyone can really master that game because at some you probably have to spend like thousands of hours before you even start knowing the very minute details that you can kind of take advantage of. But I
Hmm.
mean, maybe at some point, yeah. But with the DLC, I think that's great. I think they can add more content. I don't know too much about the actual DLC, but hopefully it's good. I might check it
Yeah.
out, and I might even pick it up.
If you pick it up, let me know because that will tempt me to pick it up so that we can play together. You and I still have yet to play Civ 6 together, but we'll make it happen at some point. It'll be
Hell
fun.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of leads us off of the gaming world news, at least, and kind of
Mhm.
leading us into our big topic of the day here.
Yeah.
Um, well, recently we actually watched a video that from Thorin. If you guys don't know, he is an esports personality, interviewer,
He calls himself a historian,
historian.
which I guess is fair. You know,
Mhm.
it's a good title.
He does a lot of good content. I
Yeah,
really
he's good.
enjoy. I love him because he's so he his personality and his persona that he portrays is such a controversial one, and I love that. I love
Mhm.
controversy because it brings out very entertaining stories. So, um, he recently did an interview or a historical interview with a also controversial journalist named Jacob Wolf, and they were talking about kind of his history, how he handled it, his start and his progression through journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And what he does is something called investigative journalism, and he does it in the esports scene. So a lot of in the gaming industry. So I believe he does now Overwatch League as well. He does League of Legends content. He does. I think he went to Evo a couple times as well. So he's done
Yeah.
FGC. So we really wanted to dive in a little bit to what we thought about him, as well
Mm-hmm.
as just investigative journalism mostly. You know, I guess I'll have you kickstart it off a little bit. You have some thoughts about pretty, I guess, somewhat negative, just like a disagreeing between what you think of
Yeah.
his
So
content. So,
with Jacob Wolf, I think is really interesting because he he kind of started his career. I think it was on Dot Esports, and then eventually moved to the Daily Dot.
mhm,
And that was where he really began to pick up popularity. But he would make, I guess, announcements about roster changes, which was really hyped up back then.
mhm,
I mean, even now they're still pretty hyped up, but like when you heard about like players going to different teams and whatever,
mhm,
and the scene was still pretty young in League of Legends, you heard a lot about different changes that may or may not happened. But Jacob Wolf had a lot of pretty good sources, so he was pretty confident in his knowledge to be able to publish those articles. But I remember that there were a lot of polarizing articles that he put out where like team owners would come and be like, "We're never talking to that guy," and I don't know where this news is coming from. We're never, ever considering this player. We never tried poaching and whatever. But these are things that like Jacob Wolf will publish, even though like most of the time, admittedly, he was right. Um, there was a really interesting incident that came out where Jacob Wolf actually published a spreadsheet of all the articles that he had written, links to those articles, when he had published them, and how correct he was. He would either say he was like uh, correct or partially correct.
mhm,
And what really put me off about that article was that he would never admit that he was wrong.
mhm,
And I guess that might be because, like, from his perspective,
mhm,
and I guess for full context, I did study journalism in high school, and I did like a pretty good job with the stories that I wrote. So my perspective kind of comes from like knowing him and his work, but also like what it would be like for me to be in his position. So if he was going to consistently say that he was partially correct on some of these stories, then that must mean that he must have knowledge that he didn't necessarily publish in full context, um, given the sources that he's been working with and knowing who he's working with. Like, and what I mean by that is like the teams that he's working with, the players that he's talking about, and then the audience that he's tailoring his pieces to.
mhm,
And I think that as a journalist, you can't ever tell everyone everything that you know, because even if you know that it's fact, you have to be able to back it up and you have to be able to have a credible source to it. And sometimes it just, the circumstances aren't there for you to be able to publish those things um, without pushing on the boundaries of slander, libel, or even just just sounding accusatory in general.
mhm,
So it puts you in a position where, like for Wolf, I think that left a really negative impression on the public based on his work,
mhm,
including me. But ever since he joined ESPN, I think he's really built himself as a very credible journalist, and that he's done a really good job with his pieces. One of his more popular pieces I actually really admire of his is excuse me, his research on the Renegades.
mhm,
Um, they're falling out with the LCS, and for those of you guys that don't know, Renegades um, was a team that was run by a really big esports personality, Monte Cristo, and a really polarizing esports team owner, Chris Badawi.
mhm,
And Badawi was banned, but then Monte Cristo took ownership of the team, and then Riot ended up banning the team entirely because they felt that they had suspicion and believe that Badawi was still kind of involved, eventually looking to take back ownership of the team. And Riot wasn't okay with that because that suggested to them that if he was eventually going to take ownership, then he still had ownership, but he would have been banned. And he was known for like poaching players and just not being a good ethical owner. Based on Jacob Wolf's research, he said that he kind of understood why Riot did what they did, but that if he were in their position, based on the knowledge that he had, under the presumption or under the assumption that Riot had the same information that he had, he would not have made the same decision. reading through his work, he did a really good job at talking to all the players, talking to all the owners, talking to people at Riot, talking to people internally that we obviously can't know about.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm sharing those two different perspectives because like now, given the kind of work that he's doing and the quality of his work, I think he's done much better at being accurate and kind of following the journalistic method to make sure that
Mhm.
people are getting news in a timely manner that's accurate and reliable. But his personality and his history, given some of the things that he did before, just kind of put me off.
Mhm.
So that it was just like that put me in a position where like I was never a big fan of his work, but I can't not acknowledge it for the value that it brings to the community.
Right. So, I mean, a little context. He was actually very young when he initially started. So, he was in college during that time. So, there may have been some or not misunderstandings, but the way he handled things may have been not been the most mature, the most kind of agreeable to a lot of people. It left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, definitely. Um, but that kind of leads us into almost like an start of investigative journalism in general, right?
Hmm.
Um, is that something that a journalist has to do in order to get into a scene or has to build that credibility, or do they have to create these pieces in a somewhat unethical way in order to become popular or to become successful, at least in the investigative journalism field? What are your thoughts? I mean, you took journalism and you studied journalism, investigative journalism overall.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Dan, because you're right that a lot of people actually don't understand investigative journalism for what it is.
Hmm.
And first off, I do want to say like there's a very distinct difference between being a journalist and being a cop. Being a journalist means that you are getting the story from other people.
Hmm.
You're talking to different people that you know are either experts in the field or can back up what they're saying with facts. And you're merely reporting the story for what it is. You're not there to accuse anybody. You're not pointing fingers at anybody. You're just saying like, this is what happened. These are the facts. These are the people that I talked to. This is how I know. And that's something that else that I really don't like about Wolf, and it's something that regarding like his journalistic methods anyway, and it's something that was always discouraged in my time as a journalist, and that's having clear information on who your sources are. And oftentimes, Wolf's articles will just say like sources say Bjergsen is leaving TSM. And is never clear about that. And obviously, when you're in a position of where he is, where he's telling you that these roster changes are likely going to happen,
Hmm.
or the contracts have already been signed, the sources are probably in a position where they shouldn't be talking about these things. Um, but with investigative journalism, right? You come in this fine line where there are going to be people that will talk to you on the record that won't want to have their names released. They're going to be people that will talk to you on the record and are okay with their names going out. And they're going to be people that will talk to you, but off the record. And the problem with talking off the record is that you then have to find another way to verify that source, or the source has to be so credible, your editor has to be okay with it and sold on this information being vital that um, you can publish a story without releasing any sources. Because when you read really big news articles, given like the Parkland shooting or anything going on with the election or anything going on with the Italian prime minister a shebang going
Hmm.
on right now, you want to know that the information you are getting from any news outlet is reliable. And oftentimes they'll like just be upfront with you, like, yeah, this government official said this, or like, that law expert said that. And so like when you're investigating something as sensitive as what happened with the Renegades, for example, or with the Rocks Tigers, where every player had already been thinking about leaving the team during that World Championship tournament, um, and Wolf reporting on that, you're crossing a lot of fine lines, right? And it gets really difficult to identify what situations it's appropriate to say, like sources say, and what situations it's not. Um, and I think for me, in all of the pieces that I've ever written, I have always published the name of my sources, letting them know upfront, like, I'm writing this because I want to like report the truth, but I want it will be so much more credible. Your story that you're telling me will be more credible if I could put a name to it. You
Hmm.
know, putting an identity and a voice to the story. I guess an example of that would be I wrote a lot about sexual violence in college, and a lot of the victims that I spoke to didn't were uncomfortable like going public with their stories. Rightfully so, right? It's hard to blame them for for feeling like they're gonna be weak or exposed when they talk about the things that had happened to them.
Hmm.
And I never forced them to talk to me. There were plenty of people that turned away because they weren't comfortable sharing their story. But when I was able to sit down with someone and let them know, like, I want to be able to publish your name, not because I want to publicize, you know, what happened to you and embarrass you,
Hmm.
because it adds so much more value to your story that people listen and people empathize. So um that was like a really big turning point for me. But admittedly, I've never gone into investigative journalism before, so it's like I don't know what it's like to be Wolf and like in the position that he's writing about, right?
Right.
And if you continue to build a reputation for yourself that says like, hey, um you can come to me for news, I won't tell you who's telling me these things, but I'm accurate, then you'll build a fan base there. I do know that like on Twitter and on Reddit, I still see people that had the mentality that I previously had, where they just didn't like Wolf as a journalist because he was inaccurate, because he had a bad attitude,
Hmm.
and because he got things wrong and wouldn't own up to it. You generally, you know, with anyone, with any of the news sources, you want to be able to go to someone and be like, and go to any news source and know that they'll correct themselves if they're wrong or that they're right. So um, I think it's really hard to judge what it's like to be an esports investigative journalist, especially because like that's not something that's popular. And like Wolf was talking to Thorin about it himself, like there aren't enough journalists in the field, and they're not reporting on things that need to be reported on. But it's difficult, and like some of these investigative stories can take months. It
Right.
can take a very long time to get them published. So like maybe even talking to like uh the right people, or you know,
Hmm.
um finding the right people can be difficult, but it's a very loaded topic.
Right. Now, question for you then. When it comes to Jacob Wolf, and I don't know too much of his story, as in how accurate he was when he initially started. But he not published many accurate stories, or almost I haven't seen a story from him, and I'm not saying I follow him fully actively, but I see his stories every so often on Reddit, and especially during the off seasons of LCS or any other gaming league. That these stories that he does produce are very accurate,
Hmm.
and we don't know his methods of actually obtaining it, and maybe it is some owner or some player that actually wants it to be exposed in that situation. So we don't actually know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that specifically? Um, have you seen his very inaccurate stories that he did publish? Um, and I guess in regards to investigative journalism, total.
No, I think you're right. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but like
Mhm.
as a person, he's been very accurate, and he's been credible, which I really appreciate in any journalist. I don't think ESPN would have kept him around if he wasn't. Um, I also like don't really follow ESPN much, and personally, I still don't click on his articles because I don't want to give him those like those
Mhm.
hits. That's just me. Whether or not they're accurate is like something I'll hear through the grapevine, like from you, Dan. I know that you are really big on like these roster change moves, and like that's really exciting. It's really exciting to me too.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, I something I learned in my classes, and I think kind of holds true to like what you see in some of the community, is that as a journalist, when you lose the trust of people, like it's really hard to earn the trust back, and sometimes you may
I
never
see.
earn it again. And I think that is really hard to say whether or not it's fair for me to feel that way
Mhm.
as a reader, as someone that just like consumes the news, right? Um, but developing sources is something that's also really difficult for journalists to do sometimes if they don't know how to network well and they don't carry the confidence that Jacob Wolf does, which I do really admire. He has taken the time to really develop himself in the scene to where he's well connected with people he should be connected with, and it gives him the opportunity to reach out to those people when he wants to write a story about something that's way more sensitive or
Mhm.
as simple as like, oh, this guy's moving his team. So all in all, I think that like given where he's at in his career now, um he is doing a good job as a journalist, and that uh he has made it clear that he is a credible source of information um as of recent and with everything he's done so far. So like when I was talking about I didn't believe him to be credible, that was obviously given his past work. When you
I
mentioned
see.
Dan, like
Mhm.
he was much younger and in college, I think that's really worth noting. But different people are gonna have different opinions on it, and I think that like you'll see that reflected in like the Reddit comments of things or like Twitter
Oh,
responses and
definitely.
things like that. So
And overall, I think in esports, journalism is so young too. Not only that, but investigative journalism especially. So the process from what Jacob Wolf had said was you obviously have a source that tells you something. Now you have to go out and confirm it with whatever sources that you have available or whoever is possible. You need at least two, and if it's two sources that actually say it's true for a smaller story like a roster change or a smaller roster change. However, if it's a bigger story, you might need a lot more. And he does have an investigative journalism journalists do have editors who, from what he says, um, grills them on where these sources are, how did you obtain them, how accurate is this source, you know, what kind of situation was it, all of these things where it sounds like a really extensive process
it
in
is. It
investigative
is.
journalism. So, um, and I do think it is such a vital part of the scene because if it was up to the teams, there wouldn't be any news until the very last second. Right? They
Hmm.
wouldn't announce anything
Yeah.
until the very last second. And with things like roster changes, it builds such a big hype throughout the off season because the off season it's so long that there isn't something that you can latch on to. Um, and with these types of stories that you do see produced throughout the months, it creates that hype all the way until even the start and the last day before the LCS actually starts. So
Yeah.
building up that continuous hype, as well as just kind of finding these pieces of information, as well as investigative journalism and certain articles that are very extensive, it creates such an interesting scene. And I feel like that is definitely something vital to help grow a scene in general. Right?
Yeah. I do wish that I would hear more roster changes from like team sites.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if a team goes to like a media outlet, the way Rick Fox did with the announcement of Froggen, he went to Blitz Esports and made a little montage out of it. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. I'm not a big fan of like some random journalist like just getting the hit and
Mm-hmm.
then like getting all the traffic in through his site and not getting the traffic through like the main esports sites or the teams that we should be supporting. But to each his own, right? Like at the end of the day, like
Mm-hmm.
you're right, it does build a lot of hype to hear about like the different rosters, and different people will find value in like different forms of media. So
A question on you for that then. If there is some type of article that does produce something like this, does that, like a investigative piece where it is a roster change, does that not create some interest in actually going to the site of the team to see if there's anything that actually is going on?
I
And
think sometimes, yeah, but then like oftentimes, especially if you browse Reddit for your news,
Mhm,
you'll see like the ESPN article will go up, and then maybe like anywhere between like 2 and 72 hours later, then the team will make the announcement, and
mhm.
then like you see that later. So maybe it'll drive traffic to the site to like double check it, but oftentimes you don't see that. And it's almost like ESPN at that point. It's just like milking money off of like information that or like clicks that could have been
Hmm.
obtained by the team making the announcement.
I see. So it sounds like overall, I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to investigative journalism, and it's a difficult field. Journalism is a difficult field. Being
Yeah,
able
it's
to
pretty
find those
complex.
sources, and
Hmm.
I didn't know that it was this complex and how many sources you have to have and the editors and finding this and finding that and being able to be that outgoing and being able to obtain those sources and creating a reputation for yourself in a
Hmm.
certain way. And um, I mean, there's so much more that we can definitely say about this, but hopefully that actually sparked some interest for you guys. Um, Taking a look at investigative journalism, not only in esports but in the world and the media. And any final thoughts from you?
No, I guess you made a really good point that investigative journalism is very complex, and like to me, I almost don't know if I would consider like roster change announcements a form of investigative
Right.
journalism. But at the end of the day, you know, the news is the news, and
Mhm.
I do like no matter how I feel about like the way he works, I do respect Jacob Wolf as a journalist because like you said, Dan, there aren't that many journalists in the field, and like it's something worth noting and like worth acknowledging.
He's very ambitious and he worked very hard to get where he is. So you
For
gotta
sure.
definitely appreciate that. So, um, but yeah, other than that, thank you for watching. Leave your comments below or
Or
email.
email us if you're
Hmm.
listening to us somewhere else.
And let us know kind of what your thoughts are on that topic. If you're excited about some of those gaming announcements, if you want to
Yeah.
fanboy over some LCS with us, if you want to start up D&D, let me know. I'm learning just as much, and keep those comments coming because we love reading them, and we love seeing that people are actually enjoying the content.
Yeah. It is really nice to read the comments and like to hear what you guys' thoughts are, even if it's simple as like, that's awesome. So
Mhm.
uh,
All right. Well, you guys will see us next time.